Thank you all for joining us today. This is Aaron Fulkerson from MindTouch, and I'm excited to be joined here by one of the pioneers in customer success, Guy Nerpaz from Totango. Guy, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Aaron, for having me.
Yeah, it's great to be speaking with you. We had a fantastic time at the customer success conference that you put on earlier this year. It was an incredibly valuable event for MindTouch. We've actually closed a couple of new customers out of that, but I think more importantly is just the value of the conversations that we had there. It was a great place for people to connect and talk best practices around customer success, so congratulations on a great event.
Thank you very much. We were very happy with the turnout this year, and we've got great feedback on the meaningful conversation people had.
Well, so before we dive in, I want to bring all of the audience members' attention to there's a Twitter chat going on under the hashtag CXMatters, that's Customer Experience Matters. So throughout the webinar, we'll be sharing additional resources using that hashtag. Furthermore, at the end of the webinar, we'll be sharing resources that are in summary and additional data of the content that we've covered here in conversation between Guy and I. And yeah, I think those are the kind of clerical things. Oh, and yeah, I guess that's it. So again, really grateful to have you all here, and let's just go ahead and dive right in. What MindTouch does is we help companies to understand their customers by helping their customers to understand their products. And the way we do it is by taking the product documentation and training and onboarding information and customer support content, and we convert that into something that drives engagement with people who are researching to make a purchase, people who are in the act of making a purchase, and of course, customers who've already purchased. But the goal is to take the content companies already produce and convert that into something that helps those three constituents across the entire customer journey, researching, buying, and succeeding with the product, to become proficient and achieve mastery with our clients' products. And then in exchange, what also happens is our clients become very well versed on who their customers is based on the content that they're consuming. So take a look at MindTouch if you're interested at mindtouch.com. Totango is, I think, one of the leaders in customer success, but you were one of the first in customer success. Tell us a bit about Totango, when you started, how you approached this space, and what your mission is.
Sure, happy to. So first, for everyone that listens, to remember, to tango, it takes two to tango. That's the origin of the name. And the two are you and your customer. So your success of your business is really dependent on the success you're creating to your customers. We started Totango in 2010, and we looked at the market of recurring revenue software as a service mainly initially. And one of the things that we've noticed is that while everyone is focusing on building the cloud applications, it's the business model has changed, and the new business model for recurring revenue requires companies to focus a lot on retaining and growing their customer base. That's, any one of you that is running a model of a recurring revenue business knows that the difference between high growth or a good company and value and sustainability is very much dependent on its ability to retain and grow its customer base over time. And we've came up with customer success as the function that is focused on once the customer is being sold, how do you make sure proactively that you're actually contributing to the fact that they're retained and growing. There are kind of basically 5 key business processes. They're onboarding, nurturing, upsell, retention, escalation, and so forth. But what do you do in order to overcome that? The trick part, or I'd say the unique point of view that we came to the market with, coming from data background as the founding team, is that we have this unique opportunity right now to know everything about our customers and the value they're getting from our service. And if we use that as the driver for the engagement and the activities, we'll be able to run very smart processes based on data. So that's kind of the short of it, of how we started. And over the years, we've learned a lot, and we've shared a lot in Customer Success Summit, in our blog, and in the recent book that I wrote, Found on Hunt book. But I'm sure we'll get to that in a minute.
Great. So you have a really unique perspective on the technology ecosystem, since Totango's got a lot of technology customers. With the recent downturn in financing and all of the venture capitalists signaling to decrease spending, what are you seeing from your perspective? What's going on in software?
Yes, and I would also add into that we've seen in the last 6 months at least 20 VPs of customer success that lost their position or lost their charter within their organizations. So I think I'm learning three things out of that. One is that customer success has to be run as a business. And in many cases, a lot of us, the last few years, while trying to implement customer success within the organization, have overpromised and under-delivered, and especially didn't run this as a business. And now that the companies need to look at their growth in a very efficient way, whatever is not driving value is being cut. So the point here is run customer success as a business. Secondly, I've also noticed that customer success goes beyond just early stage companies and beyond software as a service. Totango now has customers in cloud applications, SaaS, but also in cloud infrastructure, media, telecommunication, Internet of Things, and many more. Because I think the good news is that customer success is going enterprise and goes beyond just SaaS and early stage startups. For the people that are running early stage companies, I guess one of the things that we've noticed is that when a company makes a commitment, long-term commitment to customer success, they need to run it for a while and stick with it, because you don't get it all at once, and you need to make sure that you improve over time. The process, the understanding of your customer base, segmentation, and whatever is necessary to improve quarter over quarter or year over year the metrics around customer success, which ultimately are lifetime value related, retention, upsell, churn, but also team productivity and efficiencies.
Got it. So the idea that you touched on the okay, there's been a downturn in software spending. You've seen direct impact of that within the vice president of customer success at various companies. You've highlighted that customer success needs to think of themselves as their own profit and loss center, business unit, as you put it, where, hey, look, you've got to be generating revenue, and the way that you're advising them do that is by taking a systematic approach where they're iterative and continuously improving the business so that they're generating revenue and thinking about it in terms of their own P&L. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it is. It is. I think to your point earlier is do we see as a business and like anyone else in Silicon Valley today, do we see the impact on spending plans for companies? Yes, definitely we see that. The reason, besides just VPs of customer success, obviously companies now look very, very carefully about their spending, and they need to have the ROI to justify the spend. So, instead of going with buying inexpensive solution, I would highly recommend potential buyers of customer success software to look and commit to a number, commit to the ROI of the investment, because putting the software aside, when you build a 10 people team customer success, and we've recently published the customer success salary survey, so you can check it out on Totango website.
Or just here at CX Matters, if you go to hashtag CS Matters on Twitter, you'll find that link as well.
Yeah, so even better. But what you will see, I said 10 people, and 10 people is, let's say, 100K on average a person. It's $1 million spent a year on customer success only. So how do you make sure that those 10 people are effective? How do you make sure that they're actually meeting their goals? How do you make sure that what they're doing daily is what they should be doing, and that they're actually moving the needle on the necessary things? And we can talk more about how to do it, but I think first and foremost, it has to provide the value that your CEO or your board expects from you.
Yeah, well, you touched on something else too that I want to jump back to, which is that you have clients, you have customers at Totango that are not just in software, and I expect that that's probably a big growth space for you, especially over 2016. Our experience too at MindTouch, since we're often being engaged by customers who want to get a deeper understanding of their clients, our customers are Whirlpool, Remington, Accenture, Charles Schwab, telcos. So just like you. So this extends beyond just software industries. I have seen a growing number of people who, while they may not have the title of head of customer success or VP of customer success, they're thinking the same thing, which is how do we make our customers kick ass with our products? How do we make our customers succeed with our products? Because by achieving that, they know that that has the forward effect of revenue, or the forward effect of, like, not just renewals but upsells, right? Or improving the experience so that it offsets costs within support. So you're seeing that too, and are you expecting in 2016 that you'll be penetrating more industry verticals outside of software? Are you already seeing that this year?
Yes, we've seen beginning of that in 2015. We're seeing more and more in 2016. We've seen some amazing trends in 2016 so far, where more and more buyers outside of cloud application, outside of SaaS, buying customer success software, and also bigger and bigger companies.
Who is it at these companies? Like, what is the titles? They don't have, or do they? Do they have customer success titles? Who are you if you work at, like, you mentioned telcos, but whatever other industries that you're talking to?
Yeah, so it's funny, and I think the term customer success is picked up, and people are changing their titles into customer success. From a functional responsibility, I mean, when we try to ask ourselves why is it happening, I think first and foremost, companies that over $100 million or sometimes over $1 billion and running recurrent revenue initiatives, they're obviously doing something. They're onboarding customers, they are nurturing them, they are managing escalations, they are renewing them, they're upselling them. Otherwise, they wouldn't get to those numbers to begin with. They are converging into titles of customer success, and obviously they've tried for many years to solve the problems that we've built Totango for on their own, and realize that over time it's very, very complex. It's at the heart of their business model, and there is a VP or a CRO or someone in the company responsible for this revenue. And they have operations team, and they have teams to actually, sometimes they're being called account managers, sometimes they call account marketing, sometimes they're called client success managers. It doesn't really matter, but there are a set of key business processes being run by these companies in order to optimize and improve the chances of customer renewing. I think anytime I talk to them, I think it's very, very clear that they've realized that there are transactional relationship like renewal, upsell, and so forth, which are usually categorized under account management. And there's also value aspects of what they're doing, which is making sure customers are getting value from the services and products that they're subscribing for. So we definitely see that. What I think is interesting in those big companies, now that they find the term, they come to the conferences, they listen to webinars like this, now it's easier for them to find a source of information about customer success, and they realize that there are better frameworks, both in terms of technology and in terms of thinking, to optimize what they're doing right now. I think a lot of them have realized that customer success, when we talk about scale, multiple products, hierarchies, channels, direct, and so forth, is complex. And a lot of these complexities needs to be overcome by thinking about the model that we're building from the ground up. And the model is connecting all the data elements of customers, moving from passive data to monitoring paradigm, where technology monitors for customer-based changes, health changes, and triggers the actions or the automations that help their teams be focused on what they need to do to engage with their customers while the data solves these problems. And I think, to your point earlier, I think what we're seeing is that maybe the data elements in software are obvious, like usage and consumption. But if we think about subscription as a consumption model, we can connect to streams of consumption, streams of engagement, and so forth, and consolidate this information into a model that reflects the true health of their customers. So definitely more sophisticated, but definitely happening in the enterprise and beyond SaaS.
Okay, great. So then, we've touched on the fact that there's been a kind of general anxiety within software, at least early stage software companies, and a demand by their investors to really tighten up their spending. So what is it that we can expect from startup behaviors? What startup behaviors are no longer sustainable?
I think the disconnect between acquisition and retention, or acquisition and growth, is gone. I think acquiring customers that churn within 12 months, which is extremely expensive and extremely inefficient, this is something that it's not going to happen where you bring in a lot of customers, then you're going to look at the churn, and then you're going to try to figure it out. This needs to work in concert. So conversation like, what is a good customer, both in terms of great fit and ability to actually deliver on the value and ability to retain, is going to be part of every executive staff conversation in every startup worldwide today, and rightfully so. I think one of the key anecdotes is that we started Totango in 2010, assuming that in recurring revenue businesses, making sure you deliver value to your customers is critical. However, the market for it, where people actually start buying technology for customer success, didn't start till 2014. And the question that I keep getting asked is, why do you think it is? And I think it's just a matter of maturity. And I think the next curve of the maturity is to connect acquisition into retention, to look at that as one big optimization. Secondly, I think is with tight budgets, teams that don't deliver numbers, customer love and customer happiness, I think these are not going to be the way in which startups are going to measure their success. They will have to measure value being delivered to their customers and resulting in retention rates, upsell rates, and overall value per customer. And cohort analysis is going to take a very big, important role in the analysis tools in order to make sure that what are my good customers, and how do I make sure that I think if you want to adopt or talk about two other metaphors that I think are very common. One is, I'm borrowing from the book Outside In, is the customer journey metaphor, in which you need to think about not just the process, but also what is the journey the customer goes through, and it's the same company, same people. And you're right, it's not different people before they buy and different people after they buy. It's the same person going through expectation settings and experience. That's one point.
What's this book, Outside In? I'm not familiar with it. Is that the title?
Yeah, it's a book. It's a book by Kerry Bodine, and basically what she talks there is true for every business that has customers. If you want to think about the customer experience, think about this from the customer's eyes and not from your business processes eyes. And I guess kind of I would say taken this idea of customer journey and riffed on that for my book, which is called Farm Don't Hunt, the definitive guide for customer success. And I think one of the key areas there is to realize that what you're doing with customer success, or in recurring revenue in general, is you're not hunting anymore, right? It's not about hunting and landing the deal, right? It kind of connects to what we just talked about. It's not about the hunt. It's about the fact that you need to think about it like a tree. You have a sapling in the beginning, and then you grow it, and then once a year you harvest it, and then you continue to grow it, and then you harvest it again, and so forth. Which means that you're trying to optimize for a multi-year harvest and not just 1 year. So you need to look at the investment and the activities and the processes long term, right? And it goes it goes both ways. One is once you realize that you're not hunting and you're farming, then you realize that the most important activities are when you grow a very young sapling, and then all the growing activities are what's going to determine the yield. Is the customer going to renew or grow? And secondly, from a cost perspective, it doesn't make sense to invest in growing something that you're going to remove after a year. So invest wisely. Select the customers that have a better fit for your product. So longer term, there's going to be fit between what they're looking for and what you are able to deliver, and monitor this delivery of value all the time. Make sure there's a synchronization between the delivery and what the customer is expecting as they grow and mature and evolve and have further needs. And what I found is that, although it sounds obvious, people do need to, adopt to this mindset, because this recurrent mindset mandates that one-time short-term investments are actually hurting the business versus improving the business. So going back to where we started, where there has to be a much closer alignment between what you do while you lend the account and what you do after.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Farm Don't Hunt book. I have not read it yet, but there's several MindTouchers who have read it. They speak very highly of it, and we have a couple copies in our library here at MindTouch, so thanks for bringing that up. I hear it's a great read. Now, so as there's this downturn in SaaS or software spending, is this an opportunity? Is this a challenge? What's your read on this situation?
Yeah, so any difficult situation in life is both a challenge and an opportunity. The challenge is that money is not free anymore, and companies need to make tough choices. However, when you make tough choices, when your back is against the wall, you need to make tough choices. You prioritize, and I think what it basically means is that companies are going to have to focus on growth at all costs. Doesn't cut it anymore. They have to have a sensible growth, which means that they need to target the right customers, and they have to deliver on the promise to the customer. In order to have a sustainable business, in order to so I think unit economics right now, how much does it cost me to acquire a customer? How much does it cost me to retain a customer? Am I making a profit or loss on this customer? While I don't have unlimited people in my customer success team, I have just enough to make it work as a business, is critical. Another thing that I think is an opportunity both for Totango potential customers and for us and other vendors in the customer success market, I think that companies should consider adopting technologies that suggest best practices and have a lot of the learnings from past experiences implemented into them. I think it's this is what Totango does in other areas of our business. We buy marketing technology, we buy sales technology, we buy engineering technologies. We use a lot of open source projects in order to maximize value that's being created by other people, and I think customer success team could leverage that as well. And it could sound like a shameless plug for Buy Totango now, but I still think that the market of customer success has matured and the products are much deeper than you would have thought they are and have a lot of value to deliver.
Got it. Okay, great. Yeah, I think that a lot of companies are probably being advised by, at least in the software space, right? Being advised by their boards, at least some that I'm involved with, that hey, look, if you're having difficulty closing new customers, then really double down on the account management and try to get the upsells out of the account management to buoy your revenue numbers for the year until it turns around. I think that the main thing here is that software companies that sell exclusively to software companies are going to have a tough 2016, and those that are able to sell into other industries, this is probably not going to have a significant impact for them. Now, On a customer success program, like what in your estimation is the minimally viable customer success program? What's the MVP for a customer success program that your team advises?
Yeah. So I mean, I the minimum viable customer success program, and I break it down into I call it the engagement model. The minimum viable engagement model is onboarding, uh, nurturing, programs or event-based, and escalation management. I think for sure you need to deal also with renewals. So that's the minimal. The problem with that is that sometimes companies go beyond, below minimal and have onboarding and escalation only, and then they feel that they're reactive and they're, don't get a handle. So I think once you're done with onboarding, don't stop there. Continue the nurturing of the customer and grow them. What you will see is that you minimize the escalation, so efficiency is improving, and you're also able to impact the outcome as well. So that's to me the minimal.
Cool. I think the key things that we've done here, and when people have asked me this question, is I like to recommend doing a skill-will matrix that makes up 4 quadrants. Then you can fit your customers into basically 4 quadrants based on their skill and will level, and you're always trying to get them into the top right quadrant, right, where they're high skill, high will. And if you do that, then it makes it a little bit less one-off feeling, because you're able to say, oh, okay, they fit into quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4, and I know exactly what plays I should execute to help them realize more value from the product that they purchased. So that's kind of like the one thing that I mean, obviously the renewals you've already said, so there's no point in adding on that, but that's the one thing that when I'm talking to other companies, I'm like, hey, number one, get a skill will quadrant put together, identify each account into their respective quadrants, and then from there you just map your plays into the quadrant that moves them on the progression to the value creation within the deployment of the software. That's kind of the key one.
Yeah, I agree, Harry, with you. Sorry, I really agree with you. I think one of the key challenges that customer success organizations have is that the individual customer success manager, it's focus and prioritization, and at the management level is predictability. Right? I mean, at the end of the day, you want to run a program that the team is focused and they're working on the right customers, doing the right things, engaging with the right methods. And for the overall program of customer success, you want it to be predictable, and you want it to create clarity, and so you can forecast and make changes and so forth. One of the addition to what you just said, I call this in the book the concept of portfolio management and the portfolio scorecard, which is very similar to what you just described, which is, okay, you look at the metrics and these basically determine the actions that you want to take. But one of the things that I would add into that is there's this tendency to focus only on the urgent things, while the right way to look at that is that there are drivers, there are things that you do that are driving the outcomes. What you do in onboarding, what you do in nurturing is what will determine the outcomes. So also breaking down the activities into drivers and outcomes helps customer success managers to focus, and management team to make sure that the team is not just reacting to events, but also being able to drive outcomes by focusing on the drivers themselves. So that's kind of just another addition into what you just said.
Yeah, so to add on to that, I know that Totango is particularly strong in capturing and analyzing data. So what are the data that you recommend folks be capturing? Because I suspect that probably would be a useful mechanism of identifying where they fit on that scorecard, right?
Yes. So I mean, the way in which we describe Totango, and sure we'll show on the stream our new logo as well. But we basically say Totango connect the dots of customer data, monitors for meaningful customer health changes, and proactively drive engagement by customer success teams. So they can be focused and organized, and the overall outcome is going to be predictive and clear. So the challenges with data are twofold. One is, so let's be simple. What do we connect? We connect how people use the product, its consumption model, so how do they use the product, which features, how often, and so forth. And we do this at the individual user level, then we roll it up into accounts. We connect it to the CRM, which contains the account information, in many cases the subscription information. We connect it to the help desk data. We connect it to feedback, customer feedback information, and basically any engagement that the business could have with their clients. In many cases, especially back-end systems, it's also connected to the delivery system of the service. So that's one challenge, is connecting all these worlds together. The second challenge is to make sense of it, right? Because just putting a data on a spreadsheet or on the dashboard and so forth is not really helpful. So we organize it in a model that kind of reflects the relationship of the organization with their client. Another layer on top of that is the monitoring layer. One of the key challenges is, we call it your customer base is humming, keeps moving, it keeps changing. Whether you like it or not, this is what's going on. If you use the product today, it means something, and if you haven't used the product today, it means something as well. So you want some sort of a system. Think about this like a Fitbit connected to every one of your customers, and that monitors for changes. And once those changes are meaningful, alerts teams or automatically runs workflows as a response, even communicated directly with end users. So that's kind of the challenge of the data. And then you want to organize it into those key processes. So I guess our unique value proposition is that we started with this monitoring paradigm to begin with. This is my history in data and monitoring systems in my past. And one of the things that if you spend time in monitoring world, you know that if you want to scale, if you want to control millions of objects, you need to monitor for them. You can't just go and search for information. Otherwise, people just don't do it, and they result in like I said in the beginning, they result in the company has the data, but the data is not driving action, and for that reason, it's not that useful. So that's kind of our unique approach. And we're continuously improving the data sources. We're improving the modeling of that. We recently introduced enterprise-grade modeling, where you can model complex organization who sell multiple products through multiple channels to complex organization. And this is how kind of we've built Totango from the ground up.
Okay, great. Well, this has been, I think, really useful to the audience members. I hope you've all gotten a lot of value out of this. We've covered everything from current trends in software to where Guy and I see customer success going, along with some best practices and tactics. Thank you all so much for your time and attention. Feel free to tune in again on CX Matters. One critical point that I'd really like to hone in on here is please provide us with feedback of how you felt that this webinar went. We'd love to hear your thoughts and your advice. Email webinars@mindtouch.com. Your thoughts are very important to us. We're always optimizing, trying to get better, to serve you better, more value. Thanks, everybody, so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you all. Thanks, Ari.